Workshop topics, making some changes. This is part 1. Preparing my Myford ML7R lathe ready to move from the main workshop to the one that is built onto the house. Removing some parts from the lathe to reduce the weight and dismantling the electrical components. I bought this Myford ML7R lathe a while ago. I refurbished it and it sits in my main workshop, but it's really not getting the use because in the main workshop I have a large Smart & Brown lathe, and the one that I use most of the time is my Boxford lathe, which has a 5-inch centre height, as opposed to the Myford with only a 3.5-inch centre height, ideal for smaller jobs. I have a thing about Myford tailstocks. I really love them. I'd like one to put on the shelf as an ornament. They look like something that should really be on a Coronation-class steam locomotive. I really am a big fan of Myford lathes, and a while ago I had the privilege of making a video series in the factory where they are currently made. I'm going to move this Myford lathe down into my other workshop, so the first thing to do is to remove excess weight, starting with the tailstock. My main workshop is a large garden shed, and it has a lot of spiders. And although I seldom see them, I know they are there because of the residue left in the webs. I bought a couple of insect-repellent electronic devices that plug into wall sockets and emit high-frequency sound. I don't know whether they really work, but the spiders, when I do see them, which is very rarely, just don't look right. They look a little bit disturbed. Occasionally, in the middle of the night, my security camera alarm goes off, and it's usually down to a spider having a stroll around the workshop after dark. Here is the workshop after dark. Have a look for yourself. I had a good idea to stop this sort of thing from happening. I sprayed the camera with Raid fly and wasp killer, and I don't think the spiders like that. Once I'd removed the tailstock from the Myford, I started to clean it up and splashed the camera lens with oil, so you will see some patches in this video. Sorry for the incompetence. As you can see, I'm using a paintbrush and a vacuum cleaner to remove all the excess swarf. I have not yet recovered from the day before I made this video, which was assembling a flat pack kitchen unit, putting a worktop underneath it and on top of it to support the Myford in exactly the same way it's currently supported, but in the workshop built onto my kitchen. I currently have really bad sciatica. On a scale of 1 to 10, it's about 15. So I enlisted the help of my first ex-wife, whose name is Fran. We were married for 3 years about 50 years ago. Fran only lives across the road, which is very convenient, with her daughter, who of course is my daughter too. Assembling the flat pack was made more difficult by the fact that the instructions were wrong. I think they were printed by a village idiot. That's my excuse anyway, and I'm sticking to it. I didn't actually video anything about the construction of the base unit and the worktops. It was just a little bit scary. Well, at least my first wife was anyway. There was far too much swearing going on generally, but in the end we got the job finished. Carrying on with the job of lightening the Myford starts by removing the main transmission cover. A very simple job. Undo the lock nuts and then undo the 2 pointed screws at each side so it will lift away from the holes in the main casting. I must admit the design of Myford lathes is pretty neat. This simple cover is quite clever. As you lift it up, there's a wheel and a spring that holds it in position. When I fitted this Myford ML7R into the workshop, I used a long piece of rectangular steel tube to hold everything in position, because it sits on kneeling mats. After releasing the second of the fixings, the cover lifts free of the transmission. The belt isn't original. I changed it for this stuff, which is called nut lock, and I find it to be very, very good. Nothing needs to be dismantled to fit a new belt. The original black V belt was quite worn, so I just cut it in half and threw it away. This nut lock type of belting is very strong indeed. Being very careful not to damage the Castle V6 boiler right next to the Myford, I removed the other belt cover. I bought this drive belt from Myford, and it's a lot cheaper than nut lock, which I must caution you is very expensive stuff to buy. I shouldn't be doing this with my sciatica, but I'm pulling the lathe forward, ready for two friends of mine who are going to arrive tomorrow, and with the help of a small pickup truck are going to take the lathe down to the other workshop. So the sequence will be: remove the lathe from its current position, put it on the back of the pickup truck, drive that to the outside of the front of the house, and then take the lathe off the pickup truck and move it through into the workshop. I won't be showing any of the moving, it's unfair on the people who won't have any makeup on. Back now to the present, and I've removed the electrical system, if you can call it that. There's a contactor and a reversing switch, and just like me, they are both quite old, but they still work very well. I need to make sure that these are not damaged in the move, so I'll link together a few cable ties and strap the contactor assembly to the lathe bed. I do like these kind of nylon cable ties, not just for securing prisoners. They're quite useful for jobs like this because you can link them together. And now there's no danger whatsoever of the contactor falling off the lathe onto the floor. The headstock end of the lathe, complete with the motor, is very heavy. In order to balance the lathe, I've moved the saddle to the right, locked it in place not only with the lead screw but with the clamp. Notice that I didn't move the saddle too far to the right hand side. I left some of the lathe bed clear so it could be carried more easily. I think it's time to show you where it's going. And here we are in the smaller workshop. The builder who built this extension didn't really do too badly, but he was no plasterer, and I had to dig a hole in the wall to try and square off the wall relative to the workshop. I will repair this area in due course. I've left the blue protective covering on these doors, and for the moment I'm going to leave it like that because it looks good. And it's a good contrast to the asylum white colour that I painted the rest of the workshop. I'm determined to have plenty of storage space in this workshop, and already the spaces are filling up fast. Just a quick mention to my kind patrons that make these videos possible. That's why there wasn't one yesterday. I was doing this. And I'm still working on the pain barrier that I'm getting with the sciatica. It really is painful. That's it for this video. I think I'll shut the door and scream. Stay safe, stay healthy. Thanks for watching, and I hope you found it useful. Please take the time to visit my Mainsteam Models website and click on the section of the website that says Video Playlists. And by doing that, you can find other videos that you may like to watch. And by using the playlists, you can actually watch the videos back to back.